It's Monday, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And certainly, I am the generational talent in Garden State Media and your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It's the most handsome face that runs the place. It's Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday. Happy July, everyone. Hope you had a wonderful Independence Day weekend as we celebrated 250 years as a republic. And nice to sort of, kick England to the curb 250 years ago as we declared our independence from King George and the monarchy in England. And 250 years later, we're still alive and thriving as a republic. And again, it's great to be an American each and every day. I want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right now on Facebook Live, and as well as all the other social media platforms that carry Jersey First TV. And of course, if you haven't done so already, ladies and gentlemen, it just takes a few seconds. Like, comment, and share tonight's episode. And of course, make sure you like us on Facebook, of course. Also follow us on Instagram and X. And subscribe to us also on YouTube. Brand new episodes and all the great content from Jersey First comes to you every single week here via YouTube, and again, on all of our social media platforms. And whether you get your podcasts on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First, and you'll get exclusive content anywhere at any time, whether you're walking your dog, whether you're doing some food shopping, maybe you're booking the next vacation. You have a podcast playing in the background, folks. Trust in Jersey First, and believe me, you won't regret it. Of course, I'm always proud to be here, of course, leading the way with my amazing teammates here at Jersey First, always educating and advocating the residents here in the great state of New Jersey. Of course, brand new episodes of Real Talk premiere every Monday. Of course, check your local listings for start times. And brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with Zach Dora and Tyler Simpson premiere every Thursday. Of course, check your local listings for broadcast times. And folks, I cannot say enough about how the three of us work so hard for you every single week to bring you original programming, original content, and thought-provoking conversations with guests that matter. And not just today's political climate, but business climate and everything else. Folks, nobody does it better than the leader in independent media here in New Jersey, Jersey First TV. So shout out to my teammates, Zach and Tyler. Keep up the great work, guys. And of course, we appreciate you making this, once again, a part of your Monday night viewing. Folks, you want to stick around for final thoughts. I'm going to have a lot to say about, quite frankly, some of the usual bad actors and some of the more disingenuous ones when it comes to the usual topics in our political climate. And of course, as you can see there behind me, there's no shortage of bad actors here in New Jersey, especially when it comes to illegal immigration. Of course, something I've been talking about for years on this show. And yes, it's been verified by the Federal Reserve that certainly, as you can see there, that illegal immigration helps spike up housing and rent during the 4 years of the Biden administration, thus making housing, renting much less affordable than it was in previous years. Gee, who'd have ever thought that? But again, folks, for many of my counterparts on the left who are in denial, I'll give you the numbers and the facts as to what I've been saying for so many years. Once again, along with everything else I tell you on this show, turns out to be absolutely true. So you definitely stick around for that later on in Final Thoughts. Also, folks, during a special comment, I'll talk about the ongoing tribalism in our political culture. And it reminds me about classmates, former attorneys I've worked with, you name it, acquaintances who, for whatever reason, folks, politics has driven a division for us in our political world. And folks, I just got to tell you, it's demoralizing, but it's more demoralizing when you see it from people you used to have some sort of faith in, right? And I think back to my high school days, some high school teachers, and well, one high school teacher in particular, I never liked them years ago. I like them even less now. You can thank tribalism for that. More on that during tonight's special comment. Folks, again, it is July, and quite frankly, I want to thank you all for tuning in and making this once again a part of your Monday night viewing. I could not thank you enough for the incredible traffic during the month of June. Listen, folks, if you don't know me, you know the month of June is my least favorite month of the year for obvious reasons. If you know me, the humidity, the temperatures, the stickiness. I can't stand June. What do you think I was going to say? Well, in any event, didn't stop the traffic as Real Talk continues with real organic traffic here on the broadcast every single month for years now. And you got your little Mickey Mouse journalist with the little Mickey Mouse podcast. Not the Mickey Mouse here, folks. It's real traffic with real conversations with real guests because it's real talk. More on that later during a special comment. That's right, folks. Again, I want to thank you all for tuning in here on this, the 6th of July, as we pretty much kick off the second half of 2026 here. And once again, celebrating 6 years on the air, Real Talk continues to bring you the best analysis and commentary about everything going on in today's really political climate, business climate, everything else. Nobody does it better, ladies and gentlemen, than Real Talk right here on Jersey First TV. And speaking about today's business climate, obviously we just saw a lot of conversations about the state budget and about spending, but it also talks about, the way we sort of spend our money here in New Jersey, and mostly as taxpayers, but more so as customers. And I can't think of a bigger industry where we spend a lot of money every year, and that's the automotive industry, folks. Let's be honest, whether you're leasing a car or buying a vehicle, whether it's for yourself, a loved one, child, whoever in your family, owning an automobile is arguably one of the biggest investments you'll ever make in your adult life. And why not talk to a brilliant woman who can break it down for us when it comes to our automotive industry here in the state of New Jersey. She is the distinguished president of the New Jersey Coalition of Automobile Realtors here, And folks, she is Laura Perrotta. Join us live here on Real Talk. Laura, welcome to Real Talk. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. I'm ready for the next half of the year.
I appreciate, yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to have you on here. And again, folks, if you're interested in more information about the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers, again, visit their website at njcar.org. Certainly, you will see a plethora of programs and services available, an NJ Car video library, as well as a hole-in-one insurance tab, in addition to technician advancement programs. And certainly, if you wish to contact them or become a member within their portal, once again, visit njcar.org. Don't forget to like them on Facebook, of course. Follow them on Instagram and X. Also, follow them on YouTube and also on LinkedIn. Free publicity for you, Laura, there today for NJ Car. Wanted to do that for you. And I appreciate making this a part of your Monday night with us here on Jersey First. So first and foremost, Laura, tell us a little bit about your involvement. What drove you to NJ Car and, quite frankly, the genesis of this great organization?
Well, thanks again for having me. Really appreciate it. So I've been in at the helm of this organization for about 1.5 years. I moved from Washington, D.C., where I had spent my whole career in the association world and on policy, working most recently in the auto and truck space. I was the president of the American Truck Dealers, so the medium and heavy-duty truck dealers across the country, so your big Class 8 trucks. That was awesome. I loved that, but I had this great opportunity to move to New Jersey, move my family, and run this wonderful organization that's been around since 1918. It's truly one of the economic engines of New Jersey. We have our dealerships in every single county throughout the state, and they're providing amazing jobs, careers, and helping consumers get into the vehicle they want to help them get to their job.
Laura, when we think about automobiles, and today, obviously, New Jersey, like across the river from me, I live in Hudson County, and certainly it's the most densely populated county, not just in the state of New Jersey, but arguably in the country. And without question, obviously, mass transit is a big driver for a lot of people that move into the area, certainly working nearby in Manhattan, different sectors, whether it's the finance industry, whatever you want to call it. Certainly people move here to where I live in Hudson County, again, because of the accessibility to Manhattan. And certainly some want to keep their cars. And a car, as I mentioned before, it's an important investment. Whether buying or leasing is, your particular brand of vodka, folks at home. I mean, again, we can talk about that. But certainly up here in Hudson County, for example, and nearby Bergen County, because I'm only 5 minutes from southern Bergen County, sure, I have the advantage of mass transit, a light rail. I can jump to Hoboken within 10 minutes, jump on a train. That's great. But, many New Jerseyans like to keep their vehicles. Many New Jerseyans love to drive. Obviously, it's a state where, when you're driving through New Jersey, I mean, even though it's become more expensive to live here, when you're driving on the Parkway or the Turnpike, I mean, you have great scenery. You come from me up here and, you look at the Empire State Building and you just drive maybe 40 minutes south, you can see a lot more farmland. It's much more rural. I mean, New Jerseyans are driving still at a very high rate, and it's not discouraging people from buying or leasing automobiles. And despite the fact that, again, in an area like mine, for example, where it's so densely populated, people have become very reliant on mass transit. It's still not discouraging people from buying or leasing automobiles. Where do you think that comes from, in the sense that it's just the convenience of having a vehicle? Is it not depending on ride sharing? Like, where do you think that comes from, Laura?
I think a lot of people in New Jersey and across the country still want to have their own personal vehicle. It's just a huge game changer for folks who want to have a job, a reliable job, and be able to get to work on time. When you have a vehicle, you have control. So while transit's extremely important, and I use Uber and Lyft all the time, there's just something that's a real game changer about owning a vehicle. And yes, it is one of the most expensive things that most Americans will purchase. But here in New Jersey, it's vitally important to most everyone, whether it's getting to your job or to daycare or just going to see your family in another county or in another town. Having that independent mode of transportation is so important. And it's really freedom, the freedom of independence to be able to drive and get in your vehicle and get on the highway and get on the road. What could be more American than that? We're pretty lucky that we have this amazing system of roads that we can get from point A to B in your own private vehicle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's get into some of these programs here. It's really fascinating. And folks, again, if you're just joining us live right now, it takes 5 seconds. Like, comment, and share tonight's episode here, as I have the distinguished president of the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers, Laura Perrotta, here live on Real Talk. Again, folks, like, comment, and share. It really helps show your support for fearless independent journalism here on Jersey First TV. Now, Laura, just seeing here programs and services here, looking at the ACV, the online auction for buying and selling wholesale vehicles. Take us through what that consists of, because when you just look at it on face value, the first thing that comes to mind is it just vehicles that maybe the bank has foreclosed on people? It's up for auction. What exactly, some clarity here when it comes to this program?
Sure. Actually, Fernando, the ACV auction is one of our partners. They're one of our partner organizations. We've had a long time relationship with them. And what they do is they help the dealers with wholesaling the vehicles. If for some reason they choose not to sell it as a used vehicle, when you take a vehicle in on trade, a huge part of the dealer's business is not just selling the vehicle, but it's servicing the vehicle and also the used car sales too. So ACV Auctions helps our dealers get the vehicle to auction if that's the pathway they decide to go on. Oftentimes if you are taking in a vehicle on your brand, you might want to overhaul it and resell it. But oftentimes when a customer comes in with a vehicle that's out of your brand, you're going to want to sell it through the auction or sell it to another dealer. So it's just one channel for our dealers to keep the metal moving and get more vehicles into customers' hands. And with the pricing of vehicles today, the used car market's becoming more and more important. So
it's absolutely fascinating when we think about all the work that goes into this, right, Laura? And at the same time, I think that, for a lot of my viewers tonight, I mean, sometimes going to car dealerships can be an overwhelming experience. It can be an intimidating experience. Now, for example, I'm Cuban, so I go there and I'm ready to fight and scratch and claw for every dollar. I'm that guy that's there for 6 hours and isn't going to leave until I get the vehicle that I want. Not necessarily the color, but at the end of the day, whether it's the lease deal, the monthly payment, how much I'm putting down. But at the end of the day, it's very overwhelming for a lot of customers, right? And I think for a lot of consumers, when they have to go to car dealerships and automotive retailers, when it comes to whether they're going to buy a vehicle new or lease a new vehicle, or as you mentioned, or buy it wholesale or buy used. And I think sometimes there's always that concern where, hey, maybe the credit's not great. Maybe you don't have a lot to put down when it comes to a 36 or 39-month lease. What do you, when you talk to others in the business and the industry as well, what are you hearing is some of the biggest concerns consumers may have about going to used or pre-certified retailers, where sometimes, people are a little skeptical. They're concerned, oh, well, maybe I'll just go on Carfax and look up this vehicle, and maybe, instead of doing, going to a retailer. What are some things you can tell our audience today that can maybe help alleviate some concerns or anxiety? Because sometimes, again, for me, I love the challenge. I love going in there, and fighting tooth and nail, but not everybody's me. What can you tell to help alleviate the anxiety for some consumers out there when it comes to talking to automotive retailers?
Great question. I would say we are in a new era, a new world where most of our consumers now who are going in to purchase a new vehicle or a used vehicle are extremely educated. They're doing all the research online. They're figuring out what the right price point is for them, what type of vehicle they want, down to the color and the trim. So we are in this world because of everything we have at our fingertips now. Our consumers are extremely educated. But I love that you want to get the best deal possible. And that's the beauty of the franchise system, because there's all this competition between the Ford dealer down the street and the Ford dealer in the next town, and also interbrand competition between Toyota dealers and GM dealers. But then it's not just about getting the right price on the vehicle. You want to get the best financing rate. You should bring in a competing offer from your bank or credit union. And 9 times out of 10, the dealer is going to beat that deal and get you lower financing. So you want to use all the tools, negotiate on the price, negotiate on the financing, negotiate on whatever else you want covered, whether under the whole package. This is all about leverage, and the consumer has the most leverage because there's a lot of competition right now and dealers want your business. So I would just say, do your research, figure out exactly what you want, and then go in for a test drive, because there's nothing like getting behind the wheel to really figure out if it's the right vehicle for you. I was looking at a vehicle pretty recently and I almost got something that was just slightly too big for me. And now I'm in like the perfect vehicle for me. And it's getting behind that wheel that's just the best part of the experience.
I'm with you. Listen, I'm the guy walking in with index cards. Like, I look at the measurements because I look at my driveway. I want to see the dimensions. I want to see fuel efficiency. I'm all about the color. I'm also not too bougie. Like, as long as it has satellite radio and power windows, I'm good. I don't need heated seats. I don't need, I don't know, a sunroof. I'm a basic guy. Just give me something where I can listen to my sports talk radio, my 80s music, 90s music on satellite, and I'm good. So I'm with you about that, about being prepared, about going in there as well educated as possible. And I think even too, I think it really motivates dealerships, right, and automotive retailers to step up their game, because they know that the customer is going to come in many cases as educated on the vehicle that they want, and more likely they're not going to get hoodwinked by something that they're not expecting. So definitely, I agree with you. It's definitely changed the landscape completely. Folks, if you just joined us live right now, my guest tonight is the president of the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers, Laura Perrotta, joining us live here. And folks, again, this week's edition of Real Talk is brought to you by Duran Entities. 3 great restaurants, 3 great locations, 3 great different vibes, courtesy of Duran Entities, our sponsors here on Real Talk.
Duran Entities has now joined Real Talk with Fernando Uribe and Fernando Uribe Media. Enjoy delicious food, excellent watch parties, and a wonderful atmosphere at any of our 3 incredible restaurants. Son Cubano, located at 40-4 Riverwalk Place in West New York, New Jersey. Ventanas at the Modern, located at 200 Park Avenue in Fort Lee, New Jersey. And Solas, located at 25 River Drive South in downtown Jersey City. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you there.
Once again, folks, this week's edition of Real Talk is brought to you by Duran Entities. Back here with the president of the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers, once again, Laura Perrotta, joins us live here on Real Talk. Folks, drop a comment there or a question in the comment section. We love hearing from our audience here on Jersey First TV. Looking at other programs here, and, something that really caught my eye here, Laura, looking at NJ Car Title Services. I mean, it seems like a very, very loaded word. Share with our audience a little bit about what this consists of and why it's so beneficial.
Yeah, so this has been something that is a real linchpin to our organization, and helping us, really help the dealers, which helps the customers in turn. So our title services is where we process all the work, all the titles and registrations for all the dealership sales to consumers. So we're able to do a 3-day turnaround time to get their license and registration all set up through our services down the street here, just a few doors down. And so the dealership's constantly sending work into our offices to get processed, and we're getting the paperwork back to consumers, again, in a 3-day turnaround time, which is really competitive compared to other states. And we're really proud of it because it just makes everyone's lives better, our dealers and the consumer. And we've been doing this since 1993. We're subcontractors for the Motor Vehicle Commission in New Jersey. And we've processed roughly 52 million transactions since 1993. So just to put it in perspective of volume. So you wouldn't believe the amount of paper we have. We also have an online processing as well, but it's a lot of work. We have to do it exactly right, but it helps keep our customers happy, and then they don't have to go to the DMV and deal with that. It's all through NJ Car, which is awesome.
Great organization, folks. Again, please visit www.njcar.org. They are the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers. And again, their president, the distinguished and honorable Laura Perrotta, joins us live here on Real Talk. Laura, when we talk about doing research online for vehicles, obviously we want to be as educated as possible. But one of the risks about doing anything online is always about privacy. And especially now more than ever, we are seeing regular everyday consumers very concerned about their privacy online, what information gets leaked out there or becomes available. Obviously, looking at NJ Car, I do notice here driving privacy is a big component of NJ Car. Share with us a little bit about why this is so crucial and what NJ Car does to help alleviate, once again, the anxiety about privacy issues that maybe consumers have.
Yeah, that is a great question too. It's privacy for our customers is extremely important. It's of utmost importance. One of the things that we've focused on is with a partnership with Privacy for Cars, making sure that when you turn in your car, when you go to purchase a new one, that all that data within the vehicle gets deleted so that folks don't have your phone numbers and where you've been on your GPS. So we make sure that we try and make sure all that vehicle data is completely erased. So Privacy for Cars has been a great partner for that. And then another area is on website privacy. So we have a partner called Comply Auto that helps state associations across the country, making sure that our dealers' websites are compliant so that you're not taking information too far in a privacy perspective and keeping the customer's data private. It's extremely important that the websites are managed and clean and run correctly so that they are in compliance, and then that the vehicle data that we're getting, especially on the used car side, is completely deleted. So this is something that we have to be just completely cognizant of all the time. And a big thing that our trade association does is offer partnerships with vendors that help keep our dealerships in compliance, our 538 dealership rooftops across the state of New Jersey. And then also offering education and training to make sure that our dealers understand the rules of the road so that they can keep their customers safe and so they can just do business and make money and bring in revenue of $43 billion a year to the state of New Jersey, which is pretty impressive.
That's a very good number. Absolutely. When we talk about, obviously, the contribution to the economy and the impact, I mean, obviously in recent years, though, Laura, we've seen a mandate. And, again, you very much work with both sides of the aisle in Trenton, like other nonprofits do as well. I have the privilege of talking to Michelle Sekerka, the president and CEO of the New Jersey, the NJBIA, on a regular basis on this show. And, she understands the importance of working with both sides of the aisle. But, here in New Jersey, as we all know, sometimes Trenton adopts some really bad policies. And one of them that in recent years has gotten a lot of flack and scrutiny because of the disaster that it's been in California is the presence and rise of electric vehicles. Now, I'm not opposed to it per se, but when government starts mandating electric vehicles in their crusade to be greener, whatever other ideological spin they want to put on it, at least for me, when I look at it here in New Jersey, I mean, we look at the MSRP of an electric vehicle, and it's certainly much higher than a regular, diesel vehicle, gas diesel vehicle. And at the same time, too, I mean, yes, owners can get tax credits to their home. Obviously, they install the necessary equipment that you have to charge it, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, Laura, I mean, I'm kind of curious. I mean, what are you hearing from those in the business and the industry that you collaborate with regularly about the concerns here in New Jersey about an EV mandate here where, again, I mean, we're talking about over $50,000 of an MSRP. Again, I could be wrong here, but an MSRP on vehicles like that. And then let's be fair. I mean, the maintenance on it, if something happens, you have to replace a lithium battery. It's not just a drop in the bucket here. I mean, we're talking about serious money that for working class people in New Jersey that are struggling to live here already, an EV mandate could really suffocate a family financially. I mean, help us sort of break down the fact and fiction about EV mandates and quite frankly, what what electric vehicles are going to be doing to the New Jersey economy.
Yeah, it's the EV mandate was beyond problematic. What the New Jersey government had adopted was that by 2035, 100% of vehicle sales would need to be electric going forward. We were roughly about 11% penetration for 11 to 12% penetration for EV sales in the state of New Jersey. So to get to 100% by 2035 was completely impossible. And what we know from working with consumers every single day is that car buyers want choice. They want to be able to choose. If they want to purchase an electric vehicle, our dealers absolutely are going to sell it to them. If they want to purchase a hybrid, our dealers are going to sell it to them. And if they want an internal combustion engine, our dealers want to be able to sell it to them. So we want to make sure that the customers are educated on the products, that they figure out the vehicle that fits their lifestyle, and that it's affordable. And we've got massive affordability costs, to your point, on vehicles. And a lot of it did have to do with advancing electric vehicle mandates that were too aggressive, that spread the cost of getting to the electric vehicle production, range, battery advancements were born on the back of internal combustion engines. So that cost had to be spread over all the vehicle models. And so now we've got, vehicles are a lot more expensive because we were driving technology and not letting the market drive technology. Americans want cleaner, safer vehicles. That's a natural inclination that every driver wants. So unfortunately, if they just let the market do the direction, we think we would have been in a better place financially for every single person in New Jersey buying a new car. The costs have just continued to go up exponentially in too short of a period of time.
It's certainly frustrating, I'm sure, for many consumers when they're thinking about the future of electric vehicles, especially here in New Jersey. Again, it's so densely populated. We're seeing more and more charging stations surfacing, right? Obviously, there are tax credits associated with that, sometimes bestowed to municipality, right? I think, right? Is that fair?
Yes. There are, charging stations continue to be a focus for New Jersey, which are important. We want to have electric vehicles just like we want all the other options. One of the challenges we found too, to your point, that electric vehicles cost more than a regular internal combustion engine vehicle, is we used to have better incentives in New Jersey for these electric vehicles. We used to have $4,500 incentive on the hood. We used to have a sales tax holiday on EVs. We used to have no registration fee. And now, the state government's putting all these pressure on the local buyer to buy an electric vehicle, but taking away a lot of the incentives. So government just has to figure out, do you want electric vehicles out there? If so, you got to incentivize them because they're new technology and the early adopters have adopted. Or do you want to allow for choice? Right now we're seeing tremendous hunger for hybrids. That's where most folks are wanting to go because they see it as a cost-effective way to transition to new technology, but also still be able to gas up their vehicle. So I just think overall the lesson has been learned that you have to let the market drive this situation. And also you really need to let customers choose what works best for their lifestyle, because you can't just set a deadline and expect the whole state to go in that direction.
Well, I know you'll take the high road here, but obviously expecting Trenton to be fair to us consumers and taxpayers, it's something I can go to town on this show for a while. But certainly, I know. Listen, you have a really hard job, Laura. Certainly, I know that within your capacity, when you go to Trenton, when you talk to legislators, obviously you're talking to legislators on both sides of the aisle. Again, being a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, as I mentioned before. When I've had Michelle Sakirk on from NJBIA, or I've had other nonprofits on, along political lines or sociological lines. I mean, this is arguably the biggest challenge that, the head of an organization has, like in your capacity, of course, is to go to Trenton, is to go to talk to legislators, even sometimes go to Washington, D.C., right? Even talk to federal legislators. Take us through, again, not mentioning names, but take us through some of the most recent challenges you've encountered with NJ Car, talking to legislators, whether it's in Trenton or in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, we've had one issue that's been pretty sticky in Washington, D.C. in particular, and it's having to do with the proponents are saying right to repair, where everyone thinks that they should be able to have the right to repair their vehicle, which of course you should. But the problem is how folks who have been pushing this, the lobbyists who have been pushing this in Washington, D.C., what this really means is they want unfettered access to the telematics of the vehicle. I know this is getting a little technical, but basically they want to be able to reproduce knockoff parts in China for the vehicle parts that we make here in the United States. And it's unfortunate because it's a kind of complex issue. Everyone wants the right to repair their vehicle, but some of the terminology and the legislation that has been pushed federally really causes major, from our perspective, safety, cybersecurity issues, and also intellectual property issues. So this has been something that we've really tried to make it simple and explainable, but it is complex. And this isn't a partisan issue. But I do feel like we've been able to educate a lot of our legislators on the fact that our dealers have long-term contractual relationships with the manufacturers. They are invested in the community here in New Jersey, and they have spent a ton of money to be able to repair these vehicles properly, safely, and invest in the telematics themselves to fix these vehicles. So we just want to make sure that in a sweeping move, Congress doesn't just wipe all that away because of some good messaging from some proponents that want more of what we have. Already, independent repair shops repair 70% of the vehicles across the country. So they absolutely have their piece of the pie. We just want to make sure that our small business dealers can continue to sell and service vehicles and make sure they're fighting for the customer on recall and warranty work, which is one of the most important things that dealers do for the consumers.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, there's nothing more disheartening than if you have to take your vehicle in because of a recall. And, again, that could create overwhelming anxiety for customers. And now you're telling us that, parts now are being, as you said, subcontracted out, being outsourced. I mean, that could also be a concern, no question. Let me ask you this, Laura, because I know it really is affecting almost every sector of the business community. And I'm really curious about whether or not it's reaching the automotive retail community. But, it's that pesky, those two letters that is kind of scaring everybody. And, I might be dating myself when I say this, so it's a little bit of a pop culture reference. But, John Connor and Sarah Connor in the Terminator movies warned us about this decades ago. And, artificial intelligence, AI, is really permeating and infiltrating almost every aspect of our daily life, whether it's in finance, business, and politics. What can you tell us, if any, of what AI is doing right now in the automotive retail industry? And quite frankly, is it something we should be concerned about, scared of? Where should we be right now?
Another great question. I'd say it's a mixed bag, quite honestly. Autonomous vehicles are coming. We have various levels of autonomy, level 1 up to level 5, which level 5 is basically can drive itself without a.
And by the way, Laura, I'm sorry, I'll let you finish. But quite frankly, now that you said that, again, another pop culture reference. I might be showing my age here, but I grew up watching Knight Rider, and I said, oh my God, how great would that be when I'm an adult and I could be David Hasselhoff with Kit driving and taking a nap while Kit drives me across the country. So sorry, a little bit of a pop culture nostalgia thing. I'm sorry, continue.
Hey, I was a fan of Kit myself. I never knew I'd be in this industry, but yes, it's just the levels of autonomy and where things are going. It's happening fast. And we want to make sure it's done safely. And that's the biggest challenge, that tug of war between getting the technology out quickly and making sure it's safe. Fully autonomous isn't here yet, but I will say it's evolving really quickly. And it will be a game changer for folks who can no longer drive, maybe because they're getting older, or who might have a physical challenge where they can't drive a vehicle. So this could be a game changer for so many populations. It's unbelievable. But then we also have to worry about connected vehicles and safety, and that, do you really want a Class 8 truck, which is your big heavy duty truck, going down the highway with oil and a terrorist, tapping into the vehicle and directing the vehicle where they want it to go, and you lose control of the vehicle. So there's just this massive safety versus the future.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, it's something that we've seen in movies, right? We've seen hackers hack into. For anyone that's ever watched Fast and Furious 8, just watch what the hackers did. I mean, they literally jacked into like 5,000 vehicles in Manhattan, and you saw vehicles causing chaos and catastrophic damage. And, it's a movie and we think, oh, that can't really happen. But to your point, Laura, I mean, again, as technology evolves, so does the innovations, so does unfortunately, so does the malice that can come with hacking and hacking into these vehicles, as you mentioned. And listen, again, in a perfect world, I'd love to, scroll Twitter and Instagram while I'm being driven somewhere. But I mean, realistically, how far are we from really getting to that point? Again, we go back and think about Knight Rider and Kid, and oh my goodness, Michael Knight could drive cross country and not even worry about it. But how far realistically are we from? Again, nothing is really exact science, but how far do you think, from talking to industry insiders, that we are from really getting to as perfect an execution of that as possible?
Well, we really are. We are getting close. I've actually ridden, and this was a few years ago, in a fully autonomous truck, a big Class 8 truck with a monitor there, just light touch on the steering wheel, and it was changing lanes and it was doing everything that a regular driver does. I mean, and that again was a few years ago. Things are really evolving fast. It's kind of breathtaking. But that being said, you have to think about this. The average vehicle on the roadway right now is 13 years old. Why? Because they cost so much, because of all the things like EV mandates and technologies the government has mandated over time has increased the cost of the vehicles. So we have, more expensive vehicles and an aging fleet. It takes roughly 50 years to completely turn over the vehicle fleet. That's how long it takes. So while I think we're going to see some have people with them the money and with the ability to purchase a fully autonomous vehicle on the road, navigating with our older vehicles, and that's going to be happening for quite some time. And that's scary too, because we want to make sure that they're able to communicate with the older vehicles so that we don't have havoc there. It's the Wild West right now, and certain states and certain areas are really pushing hard to go fast because they want to be first, and they want to beat China, and they want to beat India, and they want to beat other countries too.
Certainly alarming, but somehow maybe kind of refreshing, in the sense that we can get there and, get to that point where obviously, technology can be as accommodating as possible, for sure. Laura, let me ask you this. I obviously noticed on the NJ Car web, folks, again, if you haven't done so already, please visit njcar.org. They are the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers, and their president, the distinguished Laura Perrotta, joins us live here on Real Talk, as we'll be wrapping up with her in just a few moments here. I did notice there is legislation right now in Trenton that front and center, obviously, on the NJ Car website. And for our audience at home, it is the Motor Vehicle Open Recall Notice and Fair Compensation Act. The numbers here are A4380 and S3309. Obviously, for those at home, one's a bill that's pending in the state assembly, one's in the state senate, and it enjoys, again, according to the website, broad bipartisan sponsorship, and is supported by both auto retailers and union technicians. Laura, take us through what, really in the most simplest sense here, because sometimes legislation can be overly wordy and loquacious, and sometimes, we can just sort of want to beat our heads up against the wall by reading the wording of it. But tell us what A4380 and S3309 represent to the regular everyday consumer in New Jersey, potentially.
Yes, so there's twofold benefits to this legislation. Number one, and I might just have to mention that legislation was signed into law last fall. So we need to probably update that on our website, but it was signed into law, which is amazing. But it does two things for the consumer. Number one, it will get more notifications out to the consumer when their vehicle's under open recall. So when you get your vehicle registered, you'll get a notice from the Motor Vehicle Commission if you have an open recall on your vehicle, and let you know that you can go to your local dealership and get it fixed free of charge. So it's about raising awareness about recalls. I think we have had a little bit of recall fatigue because there have been so many recalls in recent years, ever since 2014, when Toyota had the unintended acceleration in the RAV4s. Ever since then, the recalls have just upticked exponentially. So we want to make sure that our customers are aware when there's a recall and that they can get it fixed free of charge at their local dealership. So a big part of this was about notifying car owners when they have an open recall. Another part of this was about making sure that we get fair pay for fair work for auto technicians and for dealerships. Over time, manufacturers have not been paying what we consider appropriate time for work when a vehicle comes under a warranty or a recall repair. Sometimes there would be a job that would take 10 hours on an engine. Once that same job is under a recall, all of a sudden the manufacturer is only allowing a 5-hour labor time. So this is about making sure that the work that the technicians and the dealers are actually putting into each vehicle repair on warranty and recall is paid the same way that customers pay on their work in the dealership. So it's really about right sizing things to make sure there's fair pay for fair work. So we were hand in hand with the service workers and the AFL-CIO lobbying on this legislation to make sure that that the legislature understood, because as to your point, these bills can be a little complex.
Sure, absolutely. And it's refreshing to hear that these were passed, and obviously it's beneficial to the consumer. Let me ask you this, Laura, because I know obviously here in New Jersey, it's always dramatic at the end of June. Under the state constitution, the legislature has to sign a budget and give it to the governor at the time no later than 11:59 p.m. on June 30th. Otherwise, if it isn't signed, then at 12:01 a.m. on July 1st, the state could experience a shutdown. And we've experienced that in the last 20 years, once under Governor Corzine, once under Governor Christie. Obviously, in recent years, it's right up against the deadline. But when we think about nonprofits like NJ Carr and others, can I share with us a little bit, especially for our viewers at home, how is an organization like this funded? Is it through grants? Is it through private donations? Is it through corporate sponsors? What can you share with us tonight about how, at the end of the day, how does NJ Carr, I guess, for lack of a better word, stay open? How do they continue advocating for automotive retailers? Like, how is it really funded? And quite frankly, what's the challenge maybe that the organization has to face when it comes to, let's say, dealing with legislators if you're getting a grant or you're trying to get some state funding, if any?
Right. So we are funded by dues and then also our services that we offer, because we have a whole products and services website, which our dealers utilize to purchase things like their pens and their shirts and everything in the dealership that is public facing. So we're very lucky. We're a very unique trade association that our revenue is very diversified. And then we're, again, a subcontractor for the Motor Vehicle Commission. And I just have to say my predecessors were very smart about diversifying revenue and not just relying on member dues. But that being said, we do care about grants as well. We have a TAP program, our Technician Advancement Program, where we are training the technicians of tomorrow to work in auto dealerships. And we've been lucky enough to secure a grant from the New Jersey Department of Labor to train auto technicians. And so that type of thing is something that is really important for every consumer in New Jersey who wants to get their vehicle repaired safely and quickly. And also for the dealers who across the state were facing a massive shortage of auto technicians. So we found a niche that would be great for job opportunities. These are great paying jobs at the dealerships, but also great for our dealers and also an avenue for folks who maybe want to retrain or who want to not go to college and do a hands-on skill. We're seeing tremendous interest, and we're just really passionate about it, and we're really proud of the program we've built. But that is important to get grant support for, because it's kind of above and beyond our mission, but it's something we find vitally important to everyone.
It absolutely is, and I'm glad that NJ Carr does that, because especially when you mentioned about technicians, I mean, listen, I'm having worked in higher education for a lot of years. I'll always be the first one to encourage my students when I was teaching in higher ed to go seek additional education. But at the same time, my goodness, we need more technicians. We need trades people, for God's sakes. I mean, and there's something very lucrative in working in a trade. So when you mentioned that, I think I'm glad you mentioned that during the conversation, because listen, I think we need that, especially in the automobile retail industry. It's certainly more technicians, the better. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating than seeing that a lack of technicians, a lack of service industry, right, when it comes to that. And quite frankly, I'm glad that you're advocating for this out there, especially in a community that, arguably doesn't get a lot of attention when it comes to trades overall. Laura, before I let you go, we've talked to you as the president of NJ Carr. And folks, by the way, Again, visit njcar.org. That's the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers. Again, make sure you like them on Facebook. Of course, follow them on Instagram and X. Subscribe to them on YouTube. And of course, also check them out on LinkedIn. Of course, you can check out their president, Laura Perrotta, obviously on all of these social media platforms there. Quick lightning round to get to know Laura, the regular Jersey girl. Obviously, I know you came from DC. You're living in Jersey now, so you're a Jersey girl now. Quick lightning round just to sort of get to know Laura Perrotta here on the broadcast. So you're driving, obviously, you know, you go to meetings a lot. You go to Trenton, maybe you're driving to DC. What do you listen to in the vehicle? Is it satellite radio? Is it a specific station? Genre? What is Laura listening to in the vehicle?
I listen to auto podcasts, auto industry podcasts like a dork. But if it's just for fun, I like Sirius. I like some 80s, 90s. When you were talking earlier, that was my sweet spot. I like some yacht rock radio in particular.
Well, I'll say this. I also have Sirius XM on my vehicle. And Laura, I'll say this, and I'll plant the flag and I'll die on this hill. Maybe I'm showing my age here, but no better decade of music, in my opinion, than the 1980s. I'll die on a hill on that.
I concur.
Okay. Favorite artist then, since I got you there.
Oh gosh. Actually, I really love the Rolling Stones are my favorite. I know they were a little bit before, but I just love every single song.
Okay. I love everything about the 80s, and it's kind of weird because, you know, what's considered, I mean, it breaks my heart, or it's almost blasphemy now to think that something's classic rock now when it wasn't growing up, right? So I love the 80s. I loved growing up on the hair bands, Bon Jovi and Poison and Cinderella, and oh my God, I love that music. But also the pop music, Hall & Oates, Tears for Fears. I mean, I love the 1980s. That's like programmed on my Sirius XM, my 80s, my 90s, my 2000s, even the 2010s are a program on there as well. Now, I know you mentioned that you like listening to automotive podcasts. Yeah. I do hope you kind of make Jersey First now maybe a favorite there as well. Listen to our program whenever you're on the road as well. Can you promise me that, please?
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. Favorite cuisine and any restaurant that you love to go to on a regular basis?
Steak. I could eat steak 24/7 or Italian food. Those are my two absolute all-time favorites. I just discovered Toscano's in Bordentown.
Okay.
That's kind of around where I live, but I am open to any steak anytime. I love Stage Left. I love, there's just so much good food in New Jersey. That's probably my favorite thing about moving here, other than, of course, the great people I've met. I love the food.
Okay. You're starving, prime rib or a T-bone? What do you like?
Ooh, you know, I love a prime rib, but I also love a New York strip. I love a little marbling. I love a ribeye. I'm really an equal opportunity steak eater. Filet, I can take or leave, quite honestly. I like a little marbling.
Now, I'm a steak guy as well, but I'm a little picky sometimes. I like a nice baked potato with my steak. Is that too much to ask for me?
No, I like garlic mash in particular. Okay. I love some sauteed mushrooms, some broccoli rabe. I mean, oh my gosh, my stomach is actually growling. I'm really thinking about steak. Great.
Okay. Not sure if this is something that's very prevalent in your household, but I'll pick your brain and quiz you on it. Marvel movies or DC movies?
You know, I guess Marvel. I don't know. Right now, my son is 8, and we're rewatching all the Star Wars movies. That's what my life has been.
Okay. Well, listen, you are an incredible parent. That tells you right there, folks. That's good parenting when you are already making sure you educate them on Star Wars. I'm a Star Wars nut. Grew up loving the original trilogies. Not so much. The prequels were okay. The sequels to the original trilogy, I think, were god awful. I'm a little concerned about what's coming up now next year. I think it's going to be episode 10. And that's like 15 years after episode 9. So I'm a little concerned, Laura. I don't know about you.
I know. I just watched Empire Strikes Back. My son was riveted. He had seen it when he was littler, but he just wasn't old enough.
Sure.
He was riveted. And I was like, oh, it's so cute. And he's like, can we watch The Return of the Jedi? I'm like, no, it is too late. It's too late at night tomorrow.
And listen, I got to tell you, I mean, whenever we see these marathons on TNT or these other streaming channels when they just have Star Wars marathons, listen, you won't hear from me for a few days. I'm there with some food and I'm relaxed. I'm enjoying the Star Wars stuff for sure. Again, Laura, I really appreciate your time here today. Obviously, you're doing great work with the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers. And obviously, folks, please once again visit their website, njcar.org. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your belief in my brand of journalism, which, again, I think is strong and organic and fearless. And I really appreciate you dedicating a few minutes of your time here today. I'll give you the last word here tonight on Real Talk.
I just want to say how honored I was to join you. I had fun, and hopefully some folks learned a thing or two. But I just have to say, I have the best industry in the world to represent the New Jersey auto and truck dealers that are just amazing business owners and who care a lot about their local community and give back through charitable means and any other way they can. So go buy a car.
Folks, you can't say any better than that. She is the distinguished president of the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers. Laura Perrotta joins us here live on Real Talk. Folks, once again, make sure that you follow them on Facebook, also on Instagram and X. Subscribe to them on their YouTube channel. Also check them out on LinkedIn. And once again, please visit their website, www.njcar.org. That's njcar.org to get more involved and to learn more about the great work done by the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers. Laura, once again, enjoy the rest of your summer. I'll check back in with you later on this fall. Obviously, this summer, there's a lot of sales. I think people are driving a lot. They want better vehicles. They're doing road trips. God knows I like to. And we'll check back in with you and the great people at NJ Car later on during this year. I appreciate your time, and thank you for choosing Jersey First TV. You still with me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much again, Laura. Enjoy the rest of your summer. We'll talk to you soon here on Jersey First TV. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care. Folks, good stuff there with the distinguished president of the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers, Laura Perrotta, joins us live here on Real Talk. Again, folks, takes 5 seconds. Like, comment, and share tonight's episode. It really shows your support, helps the show grow, and helps show your support for fearless, independent journalism, which is what we bring you here on Jersey First TV. Folks, it is 5:53 here on the East Coast. Great episode tonight. We appreciate you making this a part of your Monday night viewing here on the 6th of July. Happy July to everybody. Once again, hope you all had a wonderful 4th of July weekend. As you can see, folks, I'm still rocking the orange for the rest of the summer. It's New York versus everybody, still representing our world champion, New York Knicks, here on Jersey First TV. I'll be rocking this, well, for the rest of the summer until the NFL begins, because you know what comes up in September, of course. So drink a little tea there. I'm looking forward to September. More than you know, folks, here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Folks, you know what time it is. It's time for final thoughts. And folks, I'm going to be a little nice today. And I know you might be thinking, oh my God, what happened? Jeez, Fernando, did Fernando get cloned? Is this bizarro world, Fernando? No. I'm going to be a little nice, but I'm also going to zing people that deserve it. And as you can see there behind me, the collage there is full of some of the worst actors in New Jersey, whether it's in higher education, like Joe Amaditis, whether it's in New Jersey government work, like Maria Rodriguez, whether it's elected officials like Phil Cohen, Joe Quintero, Ravi Bala, Katie Brennan. Okay, you name it. All right. Or disingenuous journalists like Uncle Dave, David Cruz, Maxie, Max Pizarro, Alan Steinberg, Tom Moran, Matt Friedman, Charles Stile, and activists like Caleb Burrell, Amy Torres, Patricia Campos Medina, Jay Lasso, you name it, folks. There's no shortage of bad actors in New Jersey. And nothing gets their blood boiling than how disingenuous and overly emotional they get about illegal immigration. And as we all know here in New Jersey, folks, like the other 49 states around the country, we have seen the harmful effects of illegal immigration. And no, that's not bigoted. That's not xenophobic. That's not manufacturing stereotype. No, folks, what the Federal Reserve announced today reinforces everything I've been saying on this show for years, whether it's on this program, whether it's on Politically Direct with Insider NJ some years ago, whether it's Talk on the Hudson via Blog Talk Radio. I have been the only journalist in New Jersey, ladies and gentlemen, that has been consistent on the facts and about educating the public when it comes to illegal immigration. Nobody here does that. None of them will educate you. They'll get, they'll get all in their feelings. They'll get all emotional because that's all they're good for. They're not good to talk facts or have a healthy debate. No. They're all about shutting you down if they don't like what you have to say, right? That sort of tribalism that exists. More on that later during a special comment coming up. But folks, what we learned today via the Federal Reserve, and again, folks, this is not some partisan institution here, folks. This is the Federal Reserve, okay? And it was reported by a working paper submitted by the Federal Reserve that found a record surge in illegal immigration didn't occur during the Biden administration, which triggered higher home prices and rents. Gee, I don't know, maybe having a wide open border with more than 15 million illegals flooded into the United States. Gee, what could go wrong with that happening? But again, don't say that to the collage of people that I have on. Right? Now, the findings arrive as immigration remains a polarizing political issue. Again, this is via the Federal Reserve paper. Now, Republicans argue former President Joe Biden's border policy strained housing and public resources. That's true. That's not a lie. That's not me concocting some fabricated information. No, folks, it's true. Case in point here in New Jersey. Okay. When it comes to Medicaid, that comes from the federal government. See, what happens in New Jersey, like in a lot of other blue states, for example, and this is not a lie. This is not me bullshitting you. This is fact. And the collage of people that I just illustrated to you, they struggle with facts. Like they're allergic to facts for different reasons. But here in New Jersey, for example, what Trenton does is they take Medicaid dollars that come in from Washington, D.C., and they reallocate it into a fund called NJ Family Care, which allows New Jerseyans to apply for health insurance. And they won't ask you for your immigration status. So, in essence, illegals are receiving taxpayer subsidized health care. And that puts a strain on hospitals and healthcare providers because we're having to provide healthcare for illegals and many of the anchor babies that come over the border or that are born here. But let's continue. Right? While Democrats will say that immigration has helped ease labor shortages and supports economic growth, that's just not true. Now, the paper published once again by the Federal Reserve Bank combines immigration court records with government administrative data to measure how the unprecedented wave of illegals between 2021, upon Joe Biden taking office in January of that year, and then subsequently at the end of 2024, affected local labor and housing markets. Now, of course, the authors do caution the study is a preliminary draft circulated for professional comment and doesn't necessarily reflect the views of the Federal Reserve Bank or the Federal Reserve System. However, though, researchers found that the influx of illegals boosted employment with little measurable effect on wages, but significantly increased housing demands. Gee, with the amount of illegals flooding into our communities, what happens to homes and rents and the quality of our homes? Yes, it starts to decay. But don't say that to Amy Torres, the executive director of the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. Now she's too busy, ordering Uber Eats and, coughing down another sandwich that she gets from Grubhub or Uber Eats. Or Lauren Albright from Garden State Equality. Or Patricia Campos Medina. And her useless husband, Bob Medina. Who will get all in their emotions about this, but they'll blatantly lie to you. Because what's happened to our communities, folks, and many of our residences, we've seen a decay. So this isn't like biased reporting. This is data here from the Federal Reserve. Let's continue. A 1% increase in unauthorized workers relative to a local labor force corresponded with a roughly 1% increase in overall employment, with no evidence that the immigration surge actually reduced average wages. There you go. The same 1% increase, however, was associated with a roughly 2.2% rise in home prices and a 1.4% increase in rents. Researchers found little evidence that home building expanded enough to meet the added demand, concluding the influx acted as a housing demand shock in markets where supply was already constrained. Now, the economists estimate that unauthorized immigrant worker flows accounted for about 30% of employment growth, roughly 30% of home price growth, and about 20% of rent growth in the average metropolitan area between March 2021 and March 2024. They stress that these estimates apply to the average metro area studied and do not suggest immigration was the sole driver of rising housing costs in the United States. The paper also describes 2021 through 2024 as an unprecedented boom in illegal immigration. Folks, that's true. The border was wide open under the Biden-Harris administration. And all they did for 4 years basically is gaslight you into believing that it's not a problem. No, it is a problem. Well, we're spending taxpayer dollars to put them in hotels. Don't take my word for it. A simple Google search or on YouTube will show you what happened across the river in New York City and other cities across the country, where regular everyday Americans, white, black, brown, yeah, they're getting the short end while illegals are raking in with access to healthcare and other resources that are meant for Americans. But once again, don't say that to the overly emotional crowd because they don't want to hear it. Because coddling illegals seems to be of the highest priority for one side of the political aisle. Certainly not mine. Let's continue. Citing Congressional Budget Office estimates, the authors of the report from the Federal Reserve said net unauthorized immigration added roughly 7 million people to the U.S. population before slowly sharply dropping in mid-2024. Once again, let's see here. Just make sure here. Yes. Looking at it once again, they stress that these estimates apply to the average metro area studied and don't suggest immigration was the sole driver of housing costs nationwide. But again, folks, we've seen the numbers since then. And what we've seen since January of 2025 was a closing of the border by the second Trump administration. Because 76 million voters voted for that. Okay. Now, again, this isn't some biased report here this is the Federal Reserve, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And if Republicans are smart in the upcoming midterms and going to 2028, they would be remiss to remind voters about that. About the open chaos and, quite frankly, the financial burden that was put on American taxpayers because of illegal immigration. Okay? Now, unfortunately, the Supreme Court couldn't do its job, or at least get a majority to revisit birthright citizenship. Because what are we seeing for decades now? We're seeing an influx of anchor babies. You're going to tell me that's not harming our communities? That's not overcrowding our schools? That's not putting a burden on our social services, our hospitals? Really? Like, folks, you have to be a particular type of ignorant to not see through this nonsense. Okay? And you have to be overly partisan or just have, quite frankly, a bad agenda. And that's what a lot of these people have behind me. Take your pick. Again, as I said before, you look at Patty Medina and her useless husband, Bob, okay, who do nothing but advocate for illegals. It's not bad enough that we give illegals driver's licenses here in New Jersey. Quite frankly, obviously, under the law, they have to register their vehicle. They have to get car insurance. Well, if you're here illegally, a lot of insurance companies aren't going to give you a quote because you're not a citizen. But once again, don't say it to people, don't say it to bleeding hearts like Patty Medina and Bob Medina, or overpaid, paper-pushing, apple-picking government employees like Maria Rodriguez over at Woke State University at Montclair, or beta males like Joe Amaditis, also at Woke State University at Montclair. Okay? Or journalists that have been blatantly disingenuous and dishonest when talking about immigration. Like David Cruz, when he's not too busy stuffing down another hot dog, down his mouth. For years, he's been blatantly disingenuous about immigration and the awful economic impact that illegals have had here in New Jersey. Or Max Bizzarro with Insider NJ, whenever he leaves his house, which is rare. I just saw an interview he did the other day. I'm like, wow, Max Bizzarro left his house? Like, yes, milagro? Because he's lazy. Max Bizzarro doesn't do anything. Okay? Or other blatantly disingenuous journalists. I mean, propagandists, let's be honest what they are. Like Charles Style and Matt Friedman, Jay Lasseter, John Van Vliet, Hans Steinberg, Tom Moran. Folks, it's not hyperbole. It's not manufactured hysteria by yours truly or other conservatives that are educated on the matter. Federal Reserve is just giving us, folks, a tip of the iceberg about the harmful effects of illegal immigration and what they did to the housing market and to rents. You have a wide open border. You have millions upon millions of illegals flooding into the United States. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to flood into our communities and flood into our housing markets. And if there aren't enough homes to either own or rent, that's a problem for regular, everyday Americans. But again, don't say it to them. No, they're not interested. They're not interested in everyday Americans. No, they don't care. They don't care about regular, hardworking taxpayers. Folks, most of this list right here behind me don't know what an honest day's work is if their life depended on it. They'd rather coddle illegals than, quite frankly, come to the aid of, citizens, homeowners, taxpayers. Folks, that's why I'm as good as I am at what I do here. Because I'm speaking for all of you at home, the homeowner, the taxpayer, the citizen that's just tired of everything being given to illegals. And folks, here in New Jersey, it's ground zero for them. You should be upset. Not necessarily at these fools. I mean, you should be upset at them regardless because they're pretty useless. You should be more upset about the fact that this isn't getting more press coverage. It'll get it here. But if you're waiting for Insider NJ to talk about the Federal Reserve Report or Political New Jersey or NorthJersey.com via the Bergen Record or NJ.com, folks, you might have to hold your breath until the New York Mets win a World Series. And that's a long time from now. So, again, happy to educate you. That's what I'm here for. Contrary to these people, I'm here to give you facts, not feelings. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, a special comment here tonight, and I really want to get to a topic that really resonates with me. And what we're living in right now is a time of just crazy tribalism in our political climate. Okay? So whether it's about how to debate illegal immigration, whether or not to embrace socialism, whether or not to, subscribe to woke bullshit and pronouns and all the other identity nonsense that I could not care any less about. Okay? Tribalism, unfortunately, has created this enormous divide in our country. So much so that it divides families, it divides friendships, it dissolves friendships in some cases. Okay? It can create extreme adversity or tensions in our family dynamics, in our workplace, on social media. You name it, folks. And I've had the displeasure of having to be on the receiving end of that. Because, folks, again, and I don't sort of want to paint with a broad brush, because I know not every conservative is perfect, just like not every liberal or progressive is perfect. But I can tell you, folks, as a conservative, as a consistent conservative for years, if not decades, one thing I have never participated in is to stop talking to family or friends or colleagues or associates of any kind because of their political views. And again, a lot of them, they're wrong. And I've still proclaimed to be like, still love you, still respect you. But folks, unfortunately, that isn't reciprocated. And we're seeing that a lot in our political climate. I can tell you from personal experience, whether it's my former attorney, Carolina Carbello, a diehard liberal, grew up conservative, being Cuban, grew up conservative, like myself. Unfortunately, went to Vermont Law School, arguably the most liberal law school in the country, if not, you know, the University of San Francisco Law School. Okay. Has become nothing more than just an insufferable progressive. But we found a way to be friends over the years and work together. But I'll never forget the morning after Election Day in 2024. I remember Carolina writing to me in a text message that we just can't be friends anymore. Enjoy your cheap gas and enjoy everything Trump's going to do. Now, again, full context here, Carolina Corbello is an immigration law attorney, as well as real estate and other things. And this is a woman who I was more than happy to be friends with, and we'd have healthy debates. Sure, I'd have some clowns on her social media that try to engage me and whatever, that's fine. Okay. And of course, her useless beta male husband certainly didn't help matters. But I never once did I ever say to myself, you know what? I'm going to unfollow, unfriend, or just stop talking to Carolina. No, I never did that. And trust me, folks, there were moments when she was irritating me. There were moments when she's dragging her poor children to these ridiculous pride festivals or this other nonsense in her town that she lives in, which I think is shitty parenting, but that's just my opinion. I never once even thought of dissolving a friendship because of politics. Never. I've had childhood friends that I grew up with since I was 6 years old and went through elementary school and high school and even stayed friends through college. Friends like Mike Capozzi. If you know me, you know that name means a lot to me. But like many that work in our educational system, they tend to be very liberal and just go far off into the left wing. And that's okay. That's fine. And never once did I even think of dissolving friendships with people like that. He did, which is fine. If you can't put it, if you can't see past politics and just think back to growing up with me, then all right, so be it. I don't need Mike. Just like I don't need Carolina. And other classmates that unfortunately, who I've known for decades, who will tell me, who have told me that, hey, talking to you isn't in my best interest anymore. I'd rather not see what you're doing with your brand of media, or I don't want to subject my kids to that, or see them do what you do. And I've had former classmates, dear friends of mine, break off friendships because of politics. Not me. I don't do that shit. I'm the adult in the room. Are there others that don't do? Are there others that do that? Absolutely. Shanna Bergenzelli, Pamela Lang, Eric Friggle. Gee, I'm trying to think a few other ones. Mario Duran. Okay, these are classmates I had enormous amount of respect for. But because of tribalism and because they're just, folks, let's be clear about people who identify as liberal or progressive. They'll tell you they're open-minded. It's bullshit. They're open-minded about what they like. They're open-minded about what they like to hear. But if they hear an opposing view, especially someone who's educated like myself, who can come with facts, not feelings, they don't want to deal with that shit. And I don't mind a good debate, but I also know how to respect people. And when friends of yours for decades break off friendships because of politics, I hate to tell you, I miss you. Because you show me who you really are. Because never once would I ever think of dissolving a friendship because of politics. And I've had some friends with some pretty insufferable views. Some who are parents. Some who are subjecting their kids to their left-wing bullshit. Some of the people I just listed. Some of the people I just named. And quite frankly, if that, again, who am I? Raise your kids the way you want to raise them. But it doesn't mean you're raising them well. And I don't mind saying that out loud. Because never once, folks, and I'm consistent on this show, and I'm consistent in life. I'm intellectually honest and I'm philosophically consistent. And I've had family members whose political ideologies piss me off like you wouldn't believe. And I've had friends of mine or colleagues or associates who have political views who I absolutely just detest because they don't make sense. They're more about their feelings and not facts. But never once would I ever even think of dissolving my communication with them. That tells you a lot about who you are. And it reminds me over the weekend, seeing, I guess, one of those suggested posts, I guess, over the weekend from a former teacher at Memorial High School, Mr. John Stark, a good history teacher, if I remember correctly, who was, left-wing guy, and I kind of knew that already, right? But we're living in a time where if you have some sort of opposing view or somehow you embrace policies that are working under this administration, you're vilified. And of course, who do I want to refer to? I want to refer to a former high school teacher, a science teacher named Joseph Sinque, who, quite frankly, and again, let's sort of look at the tweet there. Obviously, as you can see there, a little difficult for you to. I mean, obviously, if you try to zoom in there, obviously can't do that right now, but you can see there, and I'll just sort of go back and I'll sort of read it to you because I think it's pretty interesting here. So again, let me give you some context here about. So a few days ago, John Stark, a former high school teacher at Memorial High School, one of the better urban high schools in the area, wrote, "Never seen before. I just watched an ice raid on Anderson Avenue. For those of you that don't know, that's sort of like southern Bergen County, right in the township of Fairview. Very, very unsettling. Had to be 6 to 7 SUV guys, even wearing brown shirts like Hitler goons. Like, really, John? Like, give me a break. Like, that's not true. Okay, I'm all shook up from seeing it. Terrible, terrible. Well, you never struck me as a beta male, John, but now you just all but confirmed it. A pretty extensive amount of comments there, over 200 comments there, where people, obviously were, giving their opinions and everything. And I remember seeing, former high school teacher. Now it's interesting, again, when I was like in my teens, right? I mean, Joseph Sinque was like in his 50s, I guess. He looked like he was in his 50s. So obviously it's like 40 years later. I mean, I'm assuming Joe Sinque is now in his 90s, right? Obviously, you can see there. And I remember very simply, folks, as you can see right there, right? After, now again, he can't even spell, but he wrote, "But the sycophants think it's great. And the crazy part, many are immigrants that support this shit." Okay. And of course, what I decided to do is obviously invoke one of those animated GIFs where it's just Billy Crystal from When Harry Met Sally just offering a tissue box so Joe Sinque can cry harder. And of course, as you can see there, his response, very classy, was "eat shit." Well, let me just say this to Joe Sinque. I never liked you 40 years ago when you were a teacher at Memorial High School. I like you even less now because what Joe Sinque epitomizes, folks, more than anything, okay, is the typical, well, really today's left winger. That the minute they live in their little bubble, the little echo chamber, and if they dare to hear something that doesn't coincide with their thought process, well, for lack of a better word, Joe is lazy and just resorted to the low-hanging fruit. Now, it doesn't surprise me because Joe was lazy 40 years ago when he was a teacher at Memorial High School. So again, when I was in my teens, if I was 16, 17 years old, let me think, and I'm sort of doing the math here, and you were like in your 40s and 50s, so now you're like, now you're like in your 80s or 90s. So now at the age of 89, which is, I'm assuming if I'm doing the math correctly, Joe, you still haven't really matured. And you're still every bit the asshole you were 40 years ago when you were a teacher at Memorial High School. Nothing's really changed. So it's sad because Joe Sinque, like many of my classmates, represents this sort of tribalism and this sort of living in your bubble philosophy that you've adopted. Quite frankly, I don't have any use for you. I don't have any use for the people I just listed before. I don't have any use for Joe Sinque. And you would think for a guy like Joe Sinque, who's, again, if I'm doing the math correctly, I'm calculating when I was in high school and when he was teaching, so at the age of 90, 91, I'm assuming, right, Joe? I think you'd be a little bit better of a human now. You'd be a little bit more mature. The reality is Joe Cinque sucked 40 years ago, and 40 years later, Joe Cinque still sucks. I never liked him then. And Joe, after that classist comment, which it just reminds me you're lazy, you don't have anything really constructive or any critical thinking to contribute, just be lazy. But that's Joe Cinque, folks. Never liked him then, and I certainly don't like him now. And that's my special comment. Folks, before we call it a night here, once again, thank you to everybody for another great month of June here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Of course, 73,000 plus views and counting for the month of June. As you all know, June is my least favorite month of the year. I hate the month of June. It's insufferable. It's so much bullshit to put up with. Like, the heat, the temperature, the humidity, even the dry heat, like how insufferable it is. I mean, that's really why I hate the month of June. What do you think I was going to say? But nevertheless, in the month of June, folks, once again, I want to thank all of you for continuing to make Real Talk the success that it is here on the Jersey First Television Network. And all I can say is, again, for everyone that tunes in, I appreciate you. I love you. Everyone that shares the replay on Facebook, on X, on YouTube, on Instagram, thank you so much for supporting fearless independent journalism, folks. That's what you can rely on here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. And that's our show for this week, folks. Once again, I want to thank Laura Perrotta, the distinguished president of the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers here in the great state of New Jersey. They're a great nonprofit organization. Please visit them at njcar.org. That's njcar.org for all the great resources and services that the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers provides to you every single day here in the Garden State. Folks, again, we appreciate you tuning in here, and don't forget to like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. And again, folks, I cannot say enough. Whether you download us on Spotify or SoundCloud, check out Jersey First and all the great programming we bring you every single week. And speaking of which, I can't say enough, folks. Jersey First TV leading the way here with great programming, always educating and advocating for the residents here in the great state of New Jersey. Folks, proud to partner with Jersey First TV and proud to partner with my tag team partners here, as we all know, here on the network. Shout out to Zach Dora and Tyler Simpson. Great episodes of Bridging the Gap, which you can check out every Thursday. Obviously, it airs online via jerseyfirst.org/TV. And of course, brand new episodes of Real Talk air every Monday. Check out the listings for start times here as we bring you the best analysis and commentary about everything going on in New Jersey politics, our business climate, and much more. Folks, you can rely on Zach, Tyler, and me here at Jersey First TV. Always remember, folks, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, 6 years and counting, you can always rely on Real Talk right here on the Jersey First Television Network. That's right, folks. It is, always remember, it's the generational talent in Garden State Media, and certainly your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe, the most handsome face that runs the place. I know, all nice and clean cut and shaved and, fresh cut here for the month of July. Folks, we appreciate you tuning in here on the best 60 plus minutes of anywhere here in New Jersey. You can listen to the best commentary, again, and analysis of everything going on in New Jersey politics, folks. It's always right here on Jersey First TV. Special programming note, folks, check me out this Wednesday at the upcoming Conservative Influencer Summit hosted by Heidi, the Defender of the Republic, as well as others. Special guest there will be U.S. Senate candidate Justin Murphy. And of course, this Friday in Middlesex County, yours truly will be moderating a town hall for U.S. Senate candidate Justin Murphy. Of course, check out all the information on my social media. You can check out the information, the start times, locations, and we'll do our best to stream it this week coming up here with Jersey First TV. Folks, again, I want to thank you all for making this a part of your Monday night viewing. Again, without all of you, this show would not continue to be the success that it is. So again, please party responsibly. Enjoy the rest of your week. And I'll see you next time, next Monday, here for Jersey First TV and Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Folks, thanks for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.